Today we're gonna have a look at how to make Ankimo, which is Japanese for monkfish liver. Yes! So I just brought the monkfish liver out from cooling. I've had it in this bucket for about 2 days to bleed now. Monkfish liver has a lot of blood in it when it's taken fresh, and that creates kind of a smell when you're going to cook it. 2 days is probably overkill, but I would at least give it a few hours if it's fresh. If you bought it at a market, you're probably good to go. We're just gonna use half of this today since this is a huge liver, but it's probably going to be about half a kilo, maybe even more here with just half of it. The other half I'm going to clean and freeze, as well as we'll be using it later in this series. So this is best done in the sink, so you can see I have the entire thing here. I'm also going to have a trash bucket beside me here because we're going to take off a membrane here, as well as we're going to remove all these veins. But what I suggest that we do before anything else is that we just rinse off the liver a little bit extra, just to get rid of any additional slime or blood. So this one is pretty much drained for blood, but I'm sure we're going to find even more blood in here as we open it up. So let me just cut this in half. I'm going to clean this part off camera, so let's focus on this small part here. So the easiest way to get rid of this membrane is to just start peeling it with your fingers here. You can get kind of a grip on it if you start pulling. I've found it to be easier if the liver is very cold. That's why I like to keep it in ice cold water until I'm ready to start using it. We will need to get rid of this entire membrane here, so this is going to take a little bit of time, and again it gets kind of messy and it can smell a little bit, especially if you don't have all the blood out of the liver, but it is going to be delicious. It is known as like the foie gras of the sea world, I suppose. And by the way, if your liver has any parasites, you should also remove them now. So once you have one side thoroughly cleaned, the other side with all the membranes tends to be a little bit more difficult, so I like to do that second. So I just usually wrap the membrane around here. Another thing I found is that it's usually easier to take the membrane off if you have aged the liver just a little bit. If it's very fresh, it seems to stick more to the liver than if it's a little bit aged at least. Alright, so I finally got most of these membranes here off. As you can see here, there is also quite a bit of veins going on here. As you're removing the membranes, you usually get kind of a clue as to where the veins are, because it's usually attached to the veins here. So we will need to remove these veins as well, or at least as much as we can. It could be beneficial to have a knife available for this part, as we're kind of gonna pull in the liver here, and it may make it look a little bit ugly if you're just pulling. Using a knife could make it look a little bit more pretty. It's up to you really how much time you want to take with this. I would, however, recommend that you get out as much of these veins as possible, especially this visible veins here on the outside. And now the veins on the inside is very hard to get out, and we usually pull the liver apart if we take too many of them. So try to get ones on the outside at least. So I'm going to use a knife here because this vein was pretty hard to get a hold of without tearing the whole thing apart here. There will be some small veins that is just impossible to get out from the liver without ruining the entire thing, so you gotta do as much as you can here. As you can see, they get really small as you get in there. Alright, so I'm quite happy with this result, so let me just clean up a little bit here and we'll move on to the next step. We're gonna soak the liver here in some salt and sake. Now if you don't have sake available, you could alternatively use vinegar or even milk with a little bit of vinegar or some type of acid in it. So I'm just gonna put it into this little plastic bag here. I only found one kind here in Norway. This one is called Gekaikan. I've tried some of the other alternatives in the past and I've been like medium happy with it. So definitely use sake if you have it available. Let me just add the salt here. About a tablespoon's worth should be a good place to start here. This is really going to help with the smell. And we're going to add sake as well. And I'm thinking we're just going to add enough so that the entire liver here is submerged in the stuff. Maybe a little more, but we don't want to waste the good stuff here. And I'm just going to tie this off here now. As for the duration, how long you should keep it in this, it kind of depends. If you have super smelly liver, you could keep it for a while. If you like that fishy smell, probably 10 minutes is good. I don't like it super fishy, so I'm going to leave it in here for about 30 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to clean up the rest of that liver. After that, we'll get started on the cooking. Alright, so the half hour is up here. And here we can see the container with the sake. And you can see it has drawn out a lot more of the blood. So could probably leave it in there even longer if yours is truly bloody. Here are the other ones that I'm going to freeze down and we're going to keep them for later. Now they keep really long in the freezer, not so long in the fridge. And I almost forgot to tell you, here is the day 2 monkfish tail. As you can see, the meat has gotten a tiny bit more white as I'm aging it. Also froze down a little bit of the meat that we're going to use for sushi in another day here. And be prepared for that if you're going to follow along on this journey. Since this sake drew out so much blood, I'm going to go ahead and give give the liver a little bit of a rinse extra before we start wrapping it. So I got the liver here on aluminum foil that we're going to wrap it into. Could also use saran wrap, but I prefer aluminum foil. We're going to pack that, but first I just want to preheat some water here. We're going to steam the roll in a pot, and I've also placed a colander at the bottom there, so I'm going to make some steaming effect. I just split the liver here in two, in about 6 inches long sides each. We're going to roll these up into pretty thin rolls. Alright, so let's make one more of these wraps. I already did one for practice here. I'm just going to wrap in the sides a little bit so there doesn't run any water. Probably about an inch is a good place to start with these rolls. Maybe an inch and a half in diameter as you roll it. Now the easiest way to roll it is going to be to pull the foil all the way over like you're rolling a sushi or a burrito, and just press it underneath, and then you pull the roll forward like so. That, make sure it's tight, and we're gonna just kind of close the edges here, keep it all contained inside the roll. And now these should be ready for steaming. So we're just about ready to start steaming these rolls here. I did want to add that if you think these rolls smells fishy now, it will smell more fishy once you have steamed them, especially when you open them up. So what you could do, I've seen other people do, is to add a little bit of ginger as well as a little bit of chives into the actual steam. That way it kind of helps with the smell. Something to keep in mind, especially if you have other people staying with you. Yeah, I don't think these are going to smell since we did such a good job cleaning them. But if you feel that they are smelling fishy now, something to keep in mind there. Seems about ready to start steaming these rolls. So I'm gonna place these rolls onto the colander here. If you have a proper steamer, this probably looks silly. Now we're gonna leave them in here for about half an hour. That is on. And while that is steaming its way to deliciousness, we're gonna start working on the sides. We're gonna do some Japanese stuff for that as well, which is going to be cool. All right, so let's start by peeling some radishes here. Now if you have daikon, that's going to be more authentic, but I don't, so we'll have to make do with 3 radishes. After I was done peeling them, I also minced them up into tiny little pieces. We're going to squeeze out some of the water. Now you don't want to squeeze out all of the water from these. We're going to keep these waiting here for a while. We're going to add a little bit of chili powder. If you have Ichimi Togarashi, that's going to be the authentic. Sadly, I don't have it anymore. I have had it in the past, and it does add a little taste, but I'm just going to use some regular chili here. We're going to add about half a tablespoon to that on top here when we're garnishing. But for now, let's move on to the sauce, and that's going to be a makeshift ponzu sauce here. So for this, we're going to add 2 tablespoons worth of rice vinegar and about half a cup of mirin. But sadly I bought the wrong ingredients, so we'll have to make do with half a cup of sake and just a pinch of sugar instead. And we're just gonna let that infuse together, cook out the alcohol from the sake here as well. This is kind of a makeshift sauce, so if you have any of the more authentic ingredients or even some shiitake mushrooms, that would also go great inside the sauce here. And our sauce is done boiling, so I'm gonna add it to just a little container here. I'm also adding half a cup's worth of soy sauce and a 1/4 cup of lime and a 1/4 cup of lemon. Mix it together. This sauce should hold for about a week, so that's perfect because we're going to use some of it later as well. All right, so our rolls should be done here. Let's have a look. Dun, dun, dun. Ah! So let's turn off the heat here. So I'm going to go ahead and take these rolls out of the pot, and I'm going to place them somewhere cold. We will need to cool them down to about refrigerator temperature before we open them. They're not entirely solid. They're almost like jelly inside right now. So definitely don't open them up. Just leave them to cool down. And while we wait, why don't I give this sake a try? To me it tastes like unfiltered moonshine, but it's good. It's a little bit sweet. Probably goes nicely with that dish we're having. By the way, my name is Tor, and I'm doing this daily series this month on how to cook monkfish. So if you're at all interested in that, definitely subscribe to the channel, as there is a lot more coming. So the monkfish liver here has finally cooled down. Now let's unpack it and have a look at this Ankimo and see if it's looking good. Oh yeah, that's looking nice. We are going to go ahead and slice it up. I'm thinking about 1/2 inch sizes here. Now we're gonna do 3 slices, and actually this smells pretty good as well. And we are ready to plate. And here we have our radish added as well. Now let's sprinkle a little bit of chili pepper on top. I don't want to go overkill with the chili here because I want to taste the monkfish liver as well. And I put the sauce over in a little bit of a smaller container. Dum da da dum! And here we have the final result. Looks delicious. So let's do a taste test of this then. I brought out the sticks. Hopefully I don't embarrass myself too much. Let's try. Actually that's surprisingly good. I didn't think it was going to be this good. It's very creamy, not much fish taste, not like I would think it would be. Let's give it another try here with a little bit of that sauce. Actually this was really good, and that fake ponzu sauce, not so shabby as well. And let's try with a little bit of that spicy radish on top as well. You know what, I really approve of this recipe. I've been testing it out in many different ways now, and this is by far my favorite when I got some of that fish taste out of there. Yeah, I can recommend this one as well. I'm gonna put together all the ingredients that I used and the process with exact ingredients step by step in an article for you guys. If you want to see that, check out the video description. Tomorrow we're also going to try something Japanese. I'm gonna try to make a hot pot. Should be pretty interesting. We're gonna use some cool ingredients for that. So check that out here if you want to see that, and yeah, see you over there.